Greetings everyone, Eric here, and welcome to a new video. This is another video in the Wikia's Year of Fandom. And I am joined here with a guest from Wikia. Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I am William Arrowsmith. I've been working with Wikia since 2008. I run the DC Comics database. I live in New York City, and I am also part of the Comic Book Showcase video podcast.
Thank you for joining me. So today's video is talking about the subject of the new Batman v Superman movie, Dawn of Justice, which is kind of it is a sequel basically to the Man of Steel, but it is also more or less their introduction of trying to get the Justice League movie to happen. So this is kind of before that whole deal thing. But what we're going to start out with here in this video is we're going to have our guest, Mr. William, is going to talk to us about some past events of when Batman and Superman actually have come together in almost a confrontatious way. So this isn't the first time they've ever had little, butted heads in, situations. So, William, would you mind starting us off?
So, for a very long time in the comics, Batman and Superman were only ever seen as the closest of friends when they first met. Just two buddies going around fighting crime. And it wasn't really until 1986, Frank Miller's The Dark Knight Returns, that we really got to see them just do a full no-holds-barred fight. Frank Miller was the first person maybe not the first person, but Frank Miller looked at these two characters and said, these guys, they're always portrayed as friends, but these are two people with wildly different worldviews who would not get along well in real life. And so, 1986, Dark Knight Returns, there's this classic fight scene, if you haven't read the story, where an aging Batman puts together a suit powered by kryptonite and finds a way to really challenge Superman and seriously beat him through brute force, which is fantastic.
Yes, I actually remember reading that story, and it was one of my real big introductions of comics, really, was reading this story, and it had such a profound effect on me, especially just because as a huge Batman fan, and I was a big Superman fan, but I was mostly a Batman fan, it was interesting seeing these two characters in this way because I was so used to the animated universe where they were very buddy-buddy, especially in the Justice League. So it was cool seeing this whole event, and it was especially interesting seeing just how the fight would play out. Now, obviously, we're not going to spoil anything if you haven't read it, so go read it. It is a great read. Highly recommend. It is definitely, arguably, one of the best Batman stories of all time.
Yeah, that did blew my mind the first time I read it. Definitely, arguably one of the best Batman stories. But so since then, that marked a big change in status quo, where for a very long time, in the 90s especially, Batman and Superman, they were always portrayed as respecting each other, but they had sort of like a begrudging, confrontational relationship a lot of the time. When Superman realizes that he could turn evil, or somebody could mind control him into turning evil, there's a great moment where he chooses to give Batman a kryptonite ring that Batman can use in case Superman ever turns evil, and somebody has to keep him in check. Batman is the ultimate sanction.
Yes, and I remember that one that moment because they've actually touched on that moment a few times, even in the animated movies that they've done. Yeah. In Justice League Doom, I believe it was, where at the end he basically entrusts him with this kryptonite bullet as a way of showing his trust in Batman, to saying, if anyone's going to be here to kind of rein us in, it should be you. You're the most level-headed. You're the one who's thinking clear enough to say, hey, we are these all-powerful beings. Someone needs to keep us in check. And I do enjoy that their relationship has definitely allowed that to happen.
Yeah, and they've expanded on that a lot more. Tower of Babel, great story, shows that Batman experiments to create new types of kryptonite in case he ever has to take down Superman. Probably the most famous Batman-Superman fight in recent years is Jeff Loeb's Hush, which has Superman is controlled by Poison Ivy, and Batman, even with the kryptonite ring, still has a really difficult... punching Superman in the face with that thing, it hurts Superman, but it's breaking Batman's hand. And they really get into the The reason Batman is able to hold his own against Superman is that Superman in his core is a really, really good person, whereas Batman in his core is willing to fight nasty, willing to get dirty, and really take it out on someone.
And yeah, in the whole fight, he knows Superman subconsciously is holding back no matter what, and that is what allowed him to snap him out of it in the end. And it was definitely proof of how the situation would go down, even with kryptonite.
Yeah, obviously, Superman, if he was really trying to go balls out and murder Batman, could turn him into a red streak immediately. Good, doesn't matter how much kryptonite Batman has, Superman can blow his brains out from space with heat vision. But the fact that Superman is such a good person, Batman can take advantage of that, and while Superman constantly has to be holding back, Batman can be bringing down structures on top of him. So for the movie, I'm not sure exactly what kind of take they're gonna. I know they've talked about having it be influenced by Dark Knight Returns very heavily, and in the teasers we've seen so far, we've seen a little bit of Batman wearing the armor he uses to fight Superman. I'm really excited about that.
Oh, definitely. Like, I'm a little torn here because I'm both excited and worried because they really, for them to come out and try to do a Dark Knight Returns storyline is very interesting because they don't really have the setup for it.
Well, I think they've talked about they're not just doing straight Dark Knight Returns. They're just doing a very heavy homage to that specific battle.
Yeah, and that's what I hope it's going to be because, like I said, they're not set up for it. But if they're just going to do kind of a homage to it by just having their meeting being kind of this scenario of they're just meeting for the first time or something like that, then I think it will work. And I have heard rumors and kind of talks of like what they think it's going to be is that it's not going to be so much of a confrontation as much it is as maybe a misunderstanding. And
Yeah.
because let's face it, Batman is not well liked within the actual authority. And that was something in an old comic that we saw in a Man of Steel comic where Superman came in and he was like, "Nope, you're going to jail. You're a vigilante. We need to take you in." But it wasn't until later where he was like, "Okay, I understand now who you are and why you do what you do."
Yeah, I love. There have been a bunch of stories like that, early meeting stories of the two of them, where Superman assumes very reasonably that Batman is some kind of villain, and then I love stories that take that angle of Superman does not work very well in Gotham. A lot of the times, people ask like, "Oh, why doesn't Batman just call Superman in?" No Man's Land is a great example of that, where Superman he cannot be that scary figure to seriously take down these psychopaths.
Now, especially with this movie, I gotta ask, what are your thoughts on the big topic, which is Ben Affleck as Batman?
I am really excited. I have no idea. I mean, I guess everybody's making so much fun of Ben Affleck, and I can kind of see because he's been in some dumb movies, but everybody's been in dumb movies before. Everybody loves Michael Keaton as Batman now. Before the original Batman movie, Michael Keaton was better known as Beetlejuice. I think Ben Affleck, in the last couple years, if you watched his films since Geely, he's a fantastic actor. He's a great director. I have one problem with Ben Affleck as Batman, and that is, of all the people they could have chosen, Batman, his whole body is covered up, and he has one feature showing, and that is his chin. And Batman's entire secret identity revolves around the fact that people cannot recognize him just from his chin. And they picked the man with the single most recognizable chin in all of Hollywood since Kirk Douglas.
Yeah, I gotta say, I am actually, when I first heard about it, I was a little skeptical. But the moment I saw that picture, that black and white picture of Batman, Ben Affleck in the suit, and I saw a close-up of what he looked like, and I was like, I'm sold. That
So
is
good.
Batman.
That
He
picture makes me
looks
so
like
pumped.
Batman. Especially, and yes, you're talking about the chin, but even with just his chin showing, he looks like Batman. And
Yeah.
it really does make me go, I'm fine. I'm perfect. That you've got it. I will I will no longer have any doubts of Ben Affleck. Now, obviously, there is the whole thing about his acting. Can he play Bruce Wayne and Batman? Because they are two different people. Hopefully, they're going to learn from their mistakes with Nolan and not do that stupid, overdramatic voice. He doesn't need to go that bad with the voice to sound different enough. He doesn't need to do it. Watch the animated series with Kevin Conroy's voice. You'll see what I mean, you know? Like, I'm sure you know, too. I guess a final segment here is, let's just talk quickly about what we think going into this, of what's going to come. So, like, what are your thoughts more of, I guess, what's to come with these later DC movies that, because they've been all announced. What do you think of what they're trying to set up here? Like, what are your thoughts on how they're setting this up?
I'm very excited to see where they take it. A lot of it, I'm reserving judgment. All of the individual characters, I feel like they have great stories to tell. It's so great that we're finally getting a Wonder Woman movie. Took them long enough, I think. I am most excited about the Aquaman movie, because it is about time for my favorite superhero to finally get some screen time.
Oh, I 100% agree. I am getting tired of Aquaman not getting the screen time he deserves. I mean, we can make a whole video alone on just how unfair people have been looking at Aquaman. We can make a whole video, and we're not going to get into it here because that would make this video way too long. But that might be another video, actually, just a personal video for us to do. But
here all day, every day. The last thing I want to talk about is, it seems wonderful that DC is moving in a direction to be kind of more like wacky and comic booky, which I love. Dark Knight was incredibly successful, and they accomplished that by sort of toning everything down, toning the craziness of the comic books down to a realistic level. And that worked really well when it was Christopher Nolan doing it. But we're seeing more and more that people really just want the comic book craziness. That's why people go to comic books and superhero movies. Arrow had the same thing. They started out trying to do a grim and gritty interpretation, and they realized people want the domino masks and the boxing glove Arrow. That is what people go to superhero movies for.
Oh, most definitely. And Marvel has really shown us that that it's something that can happen, because you had the Avengers movie. Well, even before the Avengers movie, I mean, you had Iron Man, you had Thor, and eventually you had the Captain America movie, you had Avengers itself, and then Guardians of the Galaxy. My Lord, just
all about that. All about that.
Another topic that we could easily go into a whole video about, but
yeah.
It really proved that we can have these comic book movies. They don't have to be overly serious.
Yes.
Oh, most definitely. And I completely agree. I am very excited to see what they're coming up with, because I want DC to do good again. I want them to be relevant, especially because Marvel's been doing so good. I don't want it to be relying on just the animated movies. As much as I love the DC animated movies, I want some live action stuff, because I know they can do it if they get the right people. But I think that's definitely enough for this video. Perhaps we'll probably do some more videos later, because I actually enjoy talking to you, and this is actually very fun. So maybe we could do some more videos about these kind of topics. Just
that would be great.
Things like
I would
this.
love that. Yeah.
So, thank you very much for joining me in this video, and thank all of you who are watching for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you want to see more of this, especially with my my very friendly guest here, my fellow beard brother. We will definitely be trying to do something more like this in the future. But thank you again for watching, thank you William for joining me, and I will see all of you in the next video. Goodbye.